Real desire is rarely loud. It is the quiet shift in the air when a man stops pretending he doesn't feel you. You never meet a man's desire in his words. You meet it in that stillness that slips through him when you walk into the room, the way his breath stalls, the subtle drag in his step, the look he tries to hide before his mind can pull the curtains closed. A man who wants you doesn't always confess it. His nervous system confesses first. The science is simple. When a man is attracted, his limbic system, the emotional brain, activates before logic ever gets a chance to make a speech. His eyes will dilate. His body will angle toward you. His shoulders will square, not because he's trying to impress you, but because his nervous system instinctively wants to appear reliable, stable, strong. It's the animal world inside the human man. He isn't flirting, he's orienting. That's why some of the most powerful signs of male desire are not bold declarations, but accidental betrayals of instinct. He might look away quickly, almost embarrassed that he was caught. He may talk less than he usually does, like his brain is buffering between words and possibilities. He might fidget keys, collar, sleeves, anything to regulate the internal chaos that your presence awakens. Desire is not elegant. Desire is nervous. And yet you've been trained to pay attention to loud men, the ones who talk about what they want, who pursue aggressively, who promise the moon in 48 hours. They aren't dangerous because they're strong. They're dangerous because they're empty, echoing the same words they've used on 10 other women. A man who wants your body will talk. A man who wants your soul will observe, because observation is investment. Attention is currency, and a high-value man spends it carefully. He studies the way you speak, your cadence, your rhythms, the subtle tells that reveal your emotions. He learns how you express stress, how you laugh when something isn't funny, and how you use silence when you're tired of pretending. A man's desire is not measured by intensity of pursuit. It is measured by the quality of attention. Think of Shah Jahan before he became the emperor immortalized by the Taj Mahal. He didn't love Mumtaz because she was convenient or because she was the most accessible option. He returned to her again and again despite the political impossibilities, despite the distance of empire, despite the expectations of kingship. He didn't chase her with flowers or empty gestures. He paid attention. Her taste in jewels, her compassion toward the poor, the quiet softness she held even in royal chambers, the strength in the way she could disagree without violence. Love for powerful men is not about conquest, it is about recognition. It is about recognition. When a man truly desires you, he begins to memorize your world, not the highlights you post, not the dramatic stories you tell to appear interesting. He remembers the small, delicate, unguarded pieces of you, how you stir tea without thinking, the way your shoulders relax when someone finally understands you, the words you whisper when you think no one is listening. Men do not learn these things about women they do not desire. The male brain is economical. It remembers only what threatens him or what matters to him. When he remembers you, your preferences, your rhythms, your comfort, he is signaling instinct, level desire. But here's the paradox. The more powerful the desire, the quieter it becomes. A chaotic man moves fast. A grounded man slows down. He doesn't want to scare the connection away. He doesn't want his hunger to make you feel hunted. So he restrains himself, not out of weakness, but out of self-respect and respect for you. This restraint is the most misunderstood sign of masculine desire. Society teaches women, if he wanted you, he would make it obvious. But the truth is more primal and more painful. If a boy wants you, he chases. If a man wants you, he prepares. He doesn't sprint towards you in desperation. He aligns his life in ways that allow him to meet you properly. He studies what kind of woman you are, not to manipulate you, but to calibrate himself. Masculine desire is not pursuit, it is orientation. He will shift his schedule subtly. He will be where you are, without forcing it. He will take the longer route so he can coincidentally cross paths. He will place himself in your orbit not to crowd you, but because magnetic fields work even when nothing is said. Look at Abelard and Halleries, the medieval intellectual, and his brilliant student. Their letters weren't flirtation, they were gravitational wells. Abelard didn't pursue Halleries with casual lust. He restructured his entire life around proximity to her mind. He became reckless with his safety, not because he lacked options, but because her intelligence triggered something most women never woke in him. Devotion through fear. Desire isn't "I want you." Desire is a losing you would cost me something I cannot name. That is the difference between men who message you at 2 a.m. and men who rearrange their lives at 2 p.m. One of the most dangerous misunderstandings women have is equating desire with verbal expression. Not all men express with mouths. Some express with movement. Watch where he positions himself in the room. Watch how he angles his chest toward you. Watch how he lowers his voice, not to seduce but to comfort. Polyvagal theory explains this perfectly. When a man sees you as emotionally significant, his nervous system shifts into ventral vagal engagement, a state of calm, softness, and attunement. He doesn't roar, he regulates, he listens more, his tone slows. He unconsciously drops into vulnerability because your presence signals safety. This is why the man who truly wants you doesn't dominate the conversation. He tries to understand what could hurt you. But the strongest sign of desire is not in how he behaves around you. It is how he behaves without you. A man who truly desires you will begin to edit his world. He will move away from the women who drain him. He will avoid scenarios that put you in competition. He won't talk to his friends about other girls anymore. Not because you told him to, but because your existence makes the rest of the noise intolerable. Desire makes distractions boring. You don't even have to demand loyalty. In the presence of a woman who awakens masculine purpose, loyalty is not an obligation. It is a byproduct. This is why weak men cheat. The woman in front of them does not activate their higher nature. They treat relationships like entertainment, not destiny. But when desire crosses into reverence, everything changes. Think of Napoleon and Josephine. He took mistresses because power made him impatient, but Josephine lived in the back of his mind like a ghost in a cathedral. Her name slid into his letters when he wasn't thinking. Her perfume lingered in his memory like incense. Even when he remarried for politics, the empire still moved around the woman who made him feel like a man. This is how you know a man desires you. He can touch others, but he cannot forget you. The body is primitive, the spirit is loyal. The most feminine thing you can do in the face of this desire is not chase it, not reward it, not test it, just watch. Feminine power is not reaction, it is recognition. When you stop performing for male attention, you begin to see which men perform for your soul. Men reveal themselves when you are still. They show you everything you need to know when you stop filling in the silence. The woman who moves slowly forces the world to rearrange around her. Do not rush to decode his behavior. Sit back and witness it, because every man can speak. Very few men can conduct themselves in the presence of a woman who holds her worth like a crown. And here is the secret no one tells you. Male desire is not proven in how loudly he pursues you, but in how quietly he builds a future where you exist. That future may not be announced. It may not be posted. It may not even be spoken. But you will feel it in the details he remembers, the space he gives, the restraint he practices, and the gravity that forms every time your eyes meet. A man can fake charm. He can fake confidence. He can fake certainty. But he cannot fake reverence. Who? Man's desire is loud. A man's vulnerability is sacred. Desire makes a man chase. but vulnerability makes him stop running. You can tell when a man is playing a game. He stays in control, he withholds affection, he performs. The persona is polished, the words are curated, his confidence is effortless. He knows exactly how much to give, never more, never less, like a salesman who's rehearsed the pitch 1,000 times. But something changes when the desire stops being entertainment and becomes emotional risk. That's when the walls begin to melt. That's when a man's mask becomes too heavy to hold in front of the right woman. Men do not struggle with attraction. They struggle with surrender. To a man, desire is safe. It is simple. It is sexual, physical, instinctive. But to be seen, that is terrifying. A man's armor is not there to protect him from conflict. It is there to protect him from emotional exposure. He can fight an army, change a career, confront his father, endure humiliation. Yet a single moment of eye contact with a woman who touches his soul can make his voice tremble. And here is the paradox of masculine psychology. A man becomes emotionally vulnerable only when he fears losing you more than he fears being known. This is why so many women get confused. They think if a man truly likes them, he will be calm, confident, expressive. That is the fantasy. The reality is often awkward, slow, unpolished. When a man wants you but doesn't fear you, he plays. When a man wants you and fears you, he transforms. Look at King Edward VIII, he who abdicated the throne for Wallace Simpson. The world remembers his decision as irrational. He chose love over the crown. But psychologists note something deeper. He wasn't just choosing her. He was choosing to become someone who didn't have to pretend. He had been raised inside duty, protocol, the rigid choreography of royal masculinity. Every word monitored, every emotion sterilized, every desire contained. And then he met her, a woman who saw him without the crown, without the uniform, without the performance. The empire saw rebellion. He saw relief, that is vulnerability, a decision that costs you power but gives you authenticity. Many men never reach that stage. Many men never reach that state. They circle attraction like moths around flame, afraid of being burned. They flirt, linger, maintain casual connections, but never walk across the fire. You know he is crossing the threshold when he stops trying to impress you and starts trying to understand you. Not a what do I say to get her, but a what do I do to not hurt her? Not how do I win, but how do I not lose something this sacred? This stage triggers anxiety in men, real physiological anxiety. When a man begins to invest emotionally, the amygdala, the fear center in the brain, activates. It starts asking questions. What if I'm not enough? Or what if she leaves? Or what if she already sees someone better? What if I can't meet her expectations? Or what if my past repeats itself? Men rarely admit these thoughts because they have been trained to perform competence. They don't confess fear. They hide it behind distance, irony, sarcasm, or silence. Women interpret these behaviors as rejection, but most of the time they are self-protection. A man who doesn't care about you is relaxed. He is confident. He is composed. He doesn't have anything to lose. The man who loves you is different. His desire becomes fragile. His ego becomes vulnerable. His emotions become dangerous to him. He begins to weigh his actions. He hesitates. He goes quiet, not because he is detached, but because his nervous system is calibrating risk. This is why girls say, he was so confident at first, and now he's acting strange. You didn't lose his interest. You gained his fear. Consider Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer. He wasn't known for his physical romances, yet when he fell into emotional attachment, his music shattered conventions. The Fifth Symphony, the Pathétique, melodies of anguish, surrender, longing. He didn't create those pieces with logic. He composed them with vulnerability. His art betrayed him long before he ever admitted a feeling. A man's craft becomes the diary of the emotions he cannot speak. Your man may not write symphonies, but he will do his version of it. He will stay awake at 2 a.m. thinking of what to text you. He will overanalyze a 3-word message. He will replay your smile like a song stuck in his head. He will think of you in the shower, in the gym, during work meetings. Not in lust, but in longing. That is the moment where masculinity bends. That is the moment where logic kneels to emotion. It is no longer desire. It is attachment. Most women fail here because they misread the silence. They assume the slowdown means disinterest. They panic. They chase. They confront. They demand clarity from a man whose nervous system is still catching up to his heart. You cannot be his refuge if you are desperate for reassurance. A man does not reveal himself to a woman who seeks validation. He reveals himself to a woman who holds her own voice like silk, soft but unbreakable. Feminine energy is not passivity, it is composure. Your confidence is the oxygen his vulnerability breathes. If you panic, he retreats. If you grip tighter, he stiffens. If you weaponize emotion, he becomes strategic instead of sincere. Because men do not protect themselves with tears, they protect themselves with silence. This is where emotional maturity becomes a weapon of attraction. Watch how he moves when he starts to truly care. He will become protective, not controlling but intentional. He will ask about your safety. He will subtly check how you arrived home. He will offer rides without making it seem like a favor. Not because he thinks you are weak, but because your well-being becomes his responsibility in his mind. That shift is monumental. Men don't protect what they don't value. Do not mistake gifts, compliments, and flirting for worth. Men can throw those around like confetti. Protection is different. It's rooted in limbic bonding, the biological instinct to guard what one considers irreplaceable. When a man starts caring about your emotional comfort, not just your body, he has stepped into vulnerability. Look at Mansa Musa, the richest emperor in recorded history. When he traveled across the Sahara, he didn't just move gold. He moved people. He brought scholars, architects, poets, not because he wanted power, but because he understood responsibility. Leadership is vulnerability in action. Power is defensive. Responsibility is relational. A man with masculine energy will take responsibility for the woman who matters. He will check on you without asking for praise. Show up without making announcements. Help without needing applause. This is how respect enters desire. And when respect enters desire, devotion is born. The feminine mistake is trying to accelerate this transformation. You want him to speak his feelings, to confess, to name you, to label the connection. But vulnerability is not a switch, it is a slow leak. He opens the door 1 inch at a time, afraid the whole room might collapse. You pace yourself like water. You don't force the river to rush. You learn to guide its direction through stillness. The strongest feminine energy is not the loudest. It is the woman who can sit beside a man's fear without becoming smaller. You don't react to every silence. You don't test his loyalty. You don't demand confession. You let his love find its voice naturally. Because when he reaches that point, when the desire becomes unbearable, when the fear becomes impossible to contain, a man will confess not to win you, but to keep from losing himself. That moment is sacred. It cannot be staged. It cannot be rushed. It is the quiet ignition that transforms a boy who wants your body into a man who wants your future. And the woman who understands this truth steps into the power most girls never reach. She is not chosen. She is revealed. You don't realize how powerful silence is until the moment you try to use it. Tari's tea. At first, it feels like weakness. It feels like losing. Your heart wants to reach, to text, to ask, why are you acting distant? Your mind wants closure, explanation, reassurance. But silence is the weapon forged in the fires of dignity. It's the moment when every woman who ever chose herself over a man became unforgettable. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she no longer needed validation. Imagine a man who is used to your voice as his oxygen. He hears your laugh on a Tuesday call. He feels the warmth of your compliments, your reminders, your care. He never worries that he might lose you. Your presence is a constant. Then one day, you stop explaining. Not out of spite, but because you finally understand this truth. Every psychologically strong woman eventually learns. The more you talk, the more he learns how to not listen. It isn't anger that silences you. It's self-respect. It's the moment you stop auditioning for a role in his life. The silence is never empty in a man's world. He fills it with questions. Did I push her too far? Is she talking to someone else? What did I do? At first, he pretends not to care. He posts something online trying to show he's busy. He replies to your old message after 2 days with a casual, sorry, been busy. He tells himself you'll come back because you always do. But when you don't, that's the earthquake. The same silence that feels like punishment to you feels like exposure to him. To a man who is used to control, silence is not passive, it is territorial. It forces him to look at himself. Nothing destabilizes a masculine ego more than a woman who removes her attention without announcing it. Because men crave two things, admiration and certainty. You were giving both. Then you cut the supply. You see this truth repeated throughout history. When Joan of Arc was imprisoned, they thought silence would break her spirit. They thought isolation would turn her into a frightened girl, begging for mercy. They misunderstood her completely. When she refused to confess to lies fabricated by men threatened by her clarity, she wielded silence not as surrender, but as armor. And in that refusal, unspoken, unwavering, she became immortal. They wrote her off as a strange girl from a village. The world remembers her as a woman who did not bend when the room was full of powerful men telling her to bow. That is how your silence feels to a man. You are no longer begging him to pick you. You are no longer reciting your worth. You are no longer participating in the emotional economy he built, where he wins by speaking less while you speak more. When a woman stops trying to make a man understand her, she is not quitting, she is graduating. There is a reason the strongest feminine energy isn't loud or theatrical. It's quiet, strategic, undeniable. Think of it like gravity. Gravity does not beg planets to orbit. It simply exists, and everything adjusts around it. The feminine that knows her worth doesn't perform. She doesn't scream. She doesn't declare threats. She sets boundaries and watches who respects them. The world bends toward the woman who refuses to bend first. In psychology, this shift is known as the withdrawal of narcissistic supply. Men who are used to being chased, reassured, forgiven, and emotionally pampered panic when the emotional faucet shuts off. They don't panic because they love you. Many times they panic because they can't stand losing the person they used as a mirror. They want to see themselves through your admiration. They want to feel strong in your softness. They want to feel valuable in your vulnerability. When you go silent, he sees himself clearly, and he doesn't like what he sees. The most telling reaction is not when he tries to get you back. It's when he suddenly becomes cruel. He might claim you're acting dramatic, that you're too sensitive, that you're overthinking. This is psychological projection. He cannot handle accountability, so he pushes responsibility back onto you. He wants to reset the dynamic where you feel insecure and he feels superior. Do not break your silence to defend yourself. Do not explain what he already knows. Your silence is not punishment. It is truth. It is the mirror he's been avoiding. You are not ignoring him. You are acknowledging yourself. The most intoxicating women in history understood this. Empress Wu Zetian, long before she became China's sole female emperor, learned the art of withholding. When the palace grew hostile and men underestimated her, she didn't beg them to see her brilliance. She watched, she strategized, she waited. She waited. When she moved, she did not speak to compete. She spoke to command. The silence she held between moments made men uneasy. They weren't sure what she was thinking, and in that uncertainty, their power crumbled. Silence is not absence. It is presence that demands respect. A man who truly values you will not fear your silence. He will fear losing access to it. Because your attention is intimacy, your time is privilege, your softness is gold. The masculine that wants you will come toward your silence with vulnerability, not manipulation. He will ask instead of accuse. He will reflect instead of retaliate. He will move closer instead of hiding behind excuses. But the wrong man, silence reveals him. Silence unmasks him. Silence exposes his immaturity, his entitlement, his insecurity. And when that happens, don't break pattern. Don't return to the role of emotional caretaker. Do not reward disrespect with dialogue. A queen does not step down from her throne because a boy refuses to look up. There is a psychological law and attachment theory called activation anxiety, the fear triggered when someone realizes they are losing a secure base. You are that base. Your presence kept him stable. Your reassurance allowed him to take you for granted. When the feminine energy pulls its waters back from the shore, the masculine suddenly sees the barren land he thought was enough. He understands what it feels like to be thirsty. And here is the secret most women never hear. Silence is loudest when you are peaceful, not angry, not bitter, not posting revenge quotes, not baiting him with jealousy. The silence born from emotional maturity is the one that haunts a man for years. It is the silence that says, I don't need you to complete me. I am already whole. Every era has women who understood the power of absence. Queen Nanny of the Maroons didn't challenge colonizers by begging for recognition. She led her people from the mountains, sometimes speaking only through action. Her silence wasn't compliance, it was strategy. It allowed her to move where they could not see. The same women who were underestimated became legends because they never begged the world to understand their worth. They simply embodied it. When a man loses your words, he begins to hear his own thoughts. And those thoughts can be terrifying if they expose his failures. He might try to provoke you back. He might push you. He might do something reckless, emotionally or physically, to regain control. Don't be fooled. A man who feels empowered never needs to provoke. Only the insecure attempt to reframe dominance as care. You are not responsible for the way a boy handles the silence of a woman. You are responsible only for the kind of woman you become in that silence. Let him wrestle with his own ego. Let him question why he didn't treat you better. Let him miss the softness he mistook for weakness. Because the day you stop chasing is the day he realizes you were the prize.